Hi, this is Mrs. Slater, and in 5.8 we're going to be using equations. And with those equations, they are going to be coming from word problems. And then after we translate those word problems into equations, then we're going to use factoring to solve each. So the first problem is 4 times the square of a number is 21 more than 8 times the number. What is the number? Okay, go ahead and push pause and write that down. And now look for keywords. For example, you see where it says 4 times the square of a number. So 4 times means multiply. Square means something squared. 4 times the square of a number, so we're going to use x as our number, there's our key word for equals, 21, and then more than is going to mean addition. So 21 more than, there's 8, and then it says 8 times the number. So it's going back to the fact the number is x. So we can solve this by moving everything to the left-hand side of the equation, or the equal sign. So it would be a negative 8x. Notice I'm putting everything in order at the same time, so then I can factor nicely. And I first want to check for GCF. And it does not look like we have anything in common, so then I see that there are 3 terms, and the leading coefficient is greater than 1. So that means Batman. Okay, so we have to multiply the outside 2 together to get negative 84x squared, and that will be 14 and 6. So 14 will go here, x, and 6 will go here. You can switch the order of those, but the sign is the most important part of this. Because this is a negative 8, I need the negative to be on the higher number. And then we're going to bring down the negative 21, and we're going to bring down the 4x squared, and then solve by grouping. What's in common here is 2x, leaving 2x minus 7 left over. And what is in common here looks like a 3, leaving us with 2x minus 7 again, which is good because now it's going to factor nicely into 2x plus 3 and 2x minus 7. So now we bring back the equals 0, and then use the zero product property for each one of them and solve for x. So you end up with negative 3 halves and x equals 7 halves. And if you look at the original problem, it is asking you 4 times the square of a number is 20 more than 8 times the number. So both of these numbers will work. Let's go on to another type of question. And here it is. Looking for the keywords, the square of a number would be x squared. Plus is a keyword for addition. The number again shows up again, so that's going to be an x. Is key for equal sign, is 132. Okay, so if we have a situation like this, we're going to set everything equal to 0 and solve for x. We have to come up with factors of 132 that are going to give us 1. And the winning numbers are 11 and 12. Which makes the plus sign have to go on the 12 because it is a positive 1 that we're looking at. Setting both of those equal to 0 by the zero product property says that x could be 11 or a negative 12. And that would be your final answers. You can have both of those answers since it did not give a restriction on what type of number it should be. All right, the third question is the length of the top of a table. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that table. And the length of the table, there's our keyword, we're going to call that L, there's our equal sign, 5 feet greater than, which is the keyword for addition, 5 greater than the width. Okay, so then the other side has no choice but to be W, because that is the other length. And if we're going to find the area of any rectangle, and you've probably seen it written like this before, where they have area of the rectangle equals length times width or base times height. And all we have to do is plug in the information. So up above, 84 is the area. So I'm going to replace 84 with the A. L is 5 plus W, and W is just going to remain W. Now, when I distribute this, you'll see that a quadratic is formed, and now we'll be able to factor. So in this next move, I'm going to get everything in order, setting everything equal to 0 as well. So those are just going to switch around, and the 84 is going to join the right side. Okay, so go ahead and push pause and find factors of 84 that are going to give you 5. And the winning numbers are 7 and 12. Where we're going to have to put a negative on the 7 in order to get a positive 5, W. Okay, zero product property says to set them both equal to 0. And W is going to equal 7, and W is going to equal negative 12. Okay, now if I take negative 12 and plug it back in here, there's no such thing as a negative distance. So that's going to be considered an extraneous solution. So we can just cross that out. But 7, on the other hand, works very well. So we have 7, and 5 plus 7 ends up being 12. So you have all the dimensions. Your length is going to be the 12, and your width is 7, which is what the equation is asking. And the final one that I would like to go over in this lesson is the sum of two squares of two consecutive odd positive integers is 202. So the key words is sum. That's going to mean addition of the two squares of two consecutive odd positive integers. So 2 squared means that something is squared. And that something is going to be the 2 consecutive odd positive integers. Okay, so let's think about what this means first. Odd positive means 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and so on. Or you could even start with 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, and so on. These lists could go on forever, but we don't know where it's going to start because they have to add to 202. So this is how you're going to set it up. If we know, for example, that 7, let's say, is x, what always happens after is going to be 2 units after it. So if the first one is x, the second one is going to be x plus 2, the third one would be x plus 4, and so on, because they are always going to be 2 apart every single time, even if you started with 3. So if this was x, this would be x plus 2, this would be x plus 4, x plus 6, and so on. Okay, so now let's go ahead and use that, and with a little labeling, have that help us out here. So the first positive number is just going to be x. The second number is going to be x plus 2. Now if they wanted more than 3, or more than 2, then that's when you would use these extras over here. Okay, but this question is only asking for 2 consecutive odd positive integers. So now let's go back to the keyword. It says the sum of 2 squares. The sum of 2 squares, and those squares have to be 2 consecutive odd positive integers. So I'm going to put x here and x plus 2 here. And it has to be the squares of them. So another added part to this is they both have to be squared. Is means equal, and 202 would be the rest of your equation. So that's what the setup looks like. So with this next step, we're going to do combining of like terms and foiling. Alright, sorry about that. And then x squared plus 4x plus 4 is what you get when you factor or you multiply the trinomial, or the binomial squared, and that's going to equal 202. And we can't solve this or factor this until we get everything set equal to 0. So with combining like terms, that's going to be 2x squared. There's nothing to go with 4x squared, and then we're going to move the 202 over to get a negative 198. Okay, now we always should take the GCF out first, and since there is a 2 in common, we're going to go ahead and do that. It will definitely help when we are trying to find the factors of that. So So it ends up being 99 when you multiply or divide 198 by 2. And then we have to find factors of 99. That will give us 2. And 9 and 11 will be the winning numbers. Now for the signs. What are the signs going to be? This one would have to be positive in order to get a positive 2. And the 2 set everything equal to 0, because zero product property will help us determine what the values of x are. There is no x value in this, so we don't even need to bother with it. X equals 9 and x equals a negative 11. Now it did say positive odd integers, so that means the negative 11 is out. And now let's just replace what we know. X is 9, x plus 2 is 11. So that would be your final answers, 9 and 11. Now if you want, you can go back in the original problem, the sum of the squares. So the sum of the squares of 2 consecutive positive integers is 202. And just do the math, because that's going to end up being 81. And 11 squared ends up being 121. And when you add those together, you end up with 202. So that just checks to make sure you get the answer correct. All right, well that's the end of the lesson. I do have a couple of jokes for you. Let's see if you can figure out. What type of music do mummies listen to? The answer is rap music, and this is how it is spelled, rap music. Haha. Okay, and then the next question is, why was the math book so upset? Because it had too many problems. You've probably heard that one before. And then the last one is, why didn't 4 like 5? And it was because he is odd. All right, more to those to come. Have a good day.